and the dollar amount that is reflected in the staff report reflects my most recent conversation with LAFTA as of last week. And the actual amount in there is the most that they anticipate spending in 1 month. So for instance, if it was 12,000 or 13,000 a month, that it could be 15,000 the next month, just depending on how much work they did. So how we came up with that estimate was to assume the maximum amount they would charge during the month, and then that reflects the total amount that's in the staff report.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Sure. Not seeing any other questions, I will take it to public comment. Any public comment at this time, Candace?
Yes. Kelly A. Hello.
Thank you. I live in Fremont, and Fremont will have very few riders on this thing. Likewise with LAFTA. So the question becomes, how does this rail service? How many of the riders are going to be coming from Livermore or the Amador Valley or the San Ramon Valley or anywhere? And the answer is probably going to be a minority, a tiny minority, since most of this ridership is going to be coming from where? San Joaquin County. Mountain House is the first phase. Oh, it doesn't go to Tracy, by the way. It stops in Mountain House now, is the new plan. And, really, I would be asking, why is LAFTA doing all this? And when it comes to lobbying services, that's item 5. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about item 4, which is administrative support services. That's not lobbying. And then why is LAFTA? LAFTA's, I'm a little concerned. Is LAFTA turning into like a money laundering outfit where you're laundering money to build a railroad, laundering money to build a parking garage in Dublin that nobody needs? The LAFTA has to ask itself, what are you doing to fulfill your core mission? And why do you have so much spare managerial, technical, and administrative and resources, so much extra manpower that you can be giving it out for other purposes? Thank you.
Any other public comment, Candace?
I do not have any.
Thank you. So then I will go ahead and bring it back to the board for any further discussion with regards to item number 5.
Zuber will move to approve the proposal.
Thank you, sir.
Right, second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Candace, please take roll.
Who was the second? Sorry.
Right.
Right. Thank you. Akinjo,
Yes, ma'am.
Arkin,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Kick,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Yes.
Marchand,
Aye.
Nuno,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Zuber.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I'm sorry, this is Director Bedoya. I logged in at 2:11 p.m. due to some connection issues. I'm also a yes vote on that.
Thank you. Noted.
All right. Welcome, Director Bedoya. Now, item number 6, which is authorizing the executive director to exercise option number 1 with Red Oak Engineering and Consulting for Regional Advocacy Services.
Thank you, Chair. And with this request, staff requested the board authorize the executive director to exercise option 1 of the professional services agreement with Red Oak Engineering and Consulting for regional advocacy services in a form approved by legal counsel for an amount not to exceed $100,800 and extend the term of the contract for additional year. And the background on this is previously there was a contract awarded after request for proposal to Red Oak Engineering and Consulting, and it was done so under the prior executive director's amount, discretionary amount that they could use to award contracts, which was less than $100,000. In that contract scope of work and the cost identified, there was an option year, and the option year adjusts the amount. and that is over the executive director's threshold. And it was also noted in that staff report that it would come back to the board for approval. I'm happy to
Okay.
take any questions about it.
Thank you. Any questions about item number 6, which is the Red Oak Engineering Consulting for Regional Advocacy from the board? Director Arkin.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple things. And I'm sorry if you mentioned it and I didn't catch that, but first question is how much has been spent to date? And second question is, do you feel that almost $101,000 in education, put towards education are you confident that's going to result in more funding for the project?
In looking back over the past year, to answer the first part of your question, the amount identified in the contract with the first year has been fully expended. It is a monthly amount that is billed for the scope of services that was in the contract. And looking back over the course of this past year from a performance perspective, the amount of work that ValleyLink got done, being involved in the getting accepted into the FTA New Starts program, working with the MTC, working with the ACTC, getting letters of support for the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. That money has been well invested, and we are in a much better position, a much stronger position this year, funding wise, than any other year previously since ValleyLink's been formed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other hands raised. I will bring it back to public comment. Any public comment, Candace?
We do have Kelly A with a hand raised.
Now, this is a very important item because, lobbying for more money is the entire purpose and scope of this committee right now. But really, there's a lot of questions. Why, what we just heard about all these great letters of support and all this wonderful funding that this lobbyist has produced, why is it not written in the report? That was my first question. What have you been doing for the last year? We just heard a whole list. Why didn't it write? Why can't you write that down and give all the credit to all this for all this money raising that this lobbyist has done? A lot of contracts these go through these different government agencies, and one that I'm kind of familiar with a little bit. Some of you are more familiar with it. It's called Alameda County Board of Supervisors, and whenever they get a contract, the first thing that they ask is, where is this contractor located? And what's their, SLEB minority representation? And how many other contractors did we look at? And by the way, when you look back at one year ago when you approved this contract, you can't find it on your website because your administrative support services has lost the agenda. Why can't let's go fix your record keeping, please, on the administrative support services. But here on this contract, question is, who is the contractor? What state are they? Why are they out of state, by the way? This is an out-of-state contract. And why did you look at any in-state contractors? Are there any lobbyists in California? Why, or maybe even Alameda County? Most of the money for this project is coming out of things like ACTC. So the Alameda County taxpayers are paying for a train line to go to San Joaquin County and serve their residents. So why can't we find a lobbyist here in this county? Thank you.
I will bring it back to the board for any further discussion. Not seeing any hands raised.
Chair, may I?
Sure.
I'm supportive of this item. I did just want to add, based on the caller's comments, if there are any opportunities to tighten up some possible deficiencies in our record keeping or administrative services that could be done operationally, I just wanted to add my voice to that chorus, but I will be voting yes on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, bring it back to the board with regards to any other further discussion. Not seeing any further discussion, I will go ahead and ask. This is an action item.
I'll go ahead and move approval.
Okay, so
Second.
we have a motion from Arkin and a second from Wright. Please take roll.
Hakeem Joe,
Yes.
Arkin,
Yes.
Bedoya,
Yes.
Hobbit,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Kick,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Aye.
Marshall,
Yes.
Nuno,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Zuba.
yes,
Motion passes.
Okay, so moving on to item number 7, which is our meetings of the Board of Directors, and we do need an action on this.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll take the first part of this just to kick it off and then turn it over to legal counsel for further explanation. But we're coming to the end of the emergency order for virtual meetings. So we'll be returning to in-person meetings, and there are some options that legal counsel will go over. But for me, what I'd request from the board is to authorize me first to cancel the March meeting so that we have more time to develop a new calendar for the board meetings for the remainder of the year. And we would return in April to do that based on feedback we get from the board after legal counsel has helped to address questions regarding the process. And so that would be the action that's being requested, is simply to cancel the March meeting. Let me come back, staff come back in April with a new calendar for the remainder of the year and identify the locations of those meeting places. And with that, I turn it over to legal counsel just to go over basically the background and what potential options are.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I assume many of you, and maybe several times, have sort of heard the situation with the ending of the emergency order by the governor that allowed public bodies to meet remotely under the terms of AB 361. I'm not going to go over that too much. Essentially, we're returning to public meetings beginning in March or whenever our next meeting is. There was another piece of legislation that tried to provide some help, AB 2449. It's got some very specific and not very helpful provisions in case people have family emergencies or illness and need to participate. That's all covered in the report and in the guidance I provided. Bottom line is that's just not going to be very useful. But in looking at this agency, particularly the large geographic scope that's covered, in talking with staff, we've looked at whether it would be possible to essentially have multiple locations for this board to gather. And what still remains in the Brown Act is the old teleconferencing rules. And those are really the main requirements are that a quorum of the board be located within the jurisdiction of the agency. That should not be a problem with this agency because it's got a very large jurisdiction. And that any remote location be accessible to the public, and that an agenda be posted there and at the main office showing those locations. So I've been talking with staff. I think it's feasible, if the board is interested in that, to set up basically a Tri-Valley location and a San Joaquin County location. It might ease the travel burden on you and make it easier for us to get full participation in the meeting. So I think Kevin and Will be working on trying to pull that together, along with Candace's help, of course. But basically, that again, just those requirements are that any additional location be noticed and accessible to the public. And obviously, people may not want to do that in their personal homes, but an office in City Hall, or I know we've talked about other locations that could serve that function. I think the only one challenge would be technical, in terms of having staff or people that are capable of operating the Zoom equipment. But at this point, I think many of us are fairly good at that by now. So that might be, I think, the only concern. So With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but be interested in your thoughts and desires as to how you might want to meet moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And as you know, I'm sure we all sit on many committees with regards to having this discussion and to be able to come to consensus with what we want to do in the future. And I know that we had a previous location in Livermore, and Supervisor Halbert would be in charge of grabbing that for us.
Well, we've also got the Livermore Council Chambers now. The John Shirley Council Chamber is now open for business. So beautiful facility. So we could either have it there or we could have it at the Martinelli Center. So I'd volunteer the Livermore City Hall or City Council Chambers.
Supervisor Halbert, did you want to add?
Yeah, we could use the Martinelli Center as well. It depends on what the majority of people would like to do. I note that we, as Michael mentioned, also each have the ability to agendize ourselves from any qualifying location remotely. We just have to put it on the agenda. So we should put it out to those that are that would be traveling to those events. I would note that I would need to check on how much additional staff or equipment we would have to. I know we did the Martinelli Center, we could just do it the same way we did, but it may be that now the Livermore City Hall might not need any additional staff time or equipment because it might also be fully operational. I don't know. John, how fully operational is it? I know we had to set up tables and set up cameras and set up whatever else at the Martinelli Center to be hybrid, Zoom and teleconferencing capabilities. How is the Livermore City Hall?
Well, the City Council Chamber is set up for, it would be very similar to something like the facility that we had out in Tracy. But because it is set up for Zoom, it's got all the projection equipment and the like. So
How many chairs? How many people could attend virtually?
Well, in person we have 120 people attend in the council chamber itself, and another 80 people in.
How many directors? I think how many directors would be able to sit at the dais?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, our dais is. It would have to be in the. Yeah, I'll talk to you about that offline. We can go over some of the logistics about that.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the hill, San Joaquin, how many at the dais? And Karen Stepper's waving her hand as well.
I just want to say that, you know, I was on this when we went way back and met in Livermore. And it's a lot easier from my standpoint because I'm farthest to go to Livermore than it is to Martinelli.
Yeah. And it's also, you know, the other side as well too. So Bernice.
Yes, my question is Livermore. I know it's a city and it's a little dense. So my question is, which area has the best parking? There's 15 council members, and then just this, just traffic itself. Which has a better parking facilities, Martinelli or the Livermore City Hall?
I think they're both pretty with parking. I think they can handle all of it coming in.
Yeah.
Nuno.
Thank you, Chair. So we're talking about this out of San Joaquin County. I know the Manteca Transit Center can handle. We're pretty well equipped. We've been doing, there's plenty of parking as a new transit center. I know there's some future development to be there along with ACE. So as an option, we're able to assist in that for setup. Staffing's already been, they have been given a heads up, like, you know, that's something that could happen, and fully supportive of being able to accommodate as an option at one of the San Joaquin counties, cities.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Director Wright.
Yes, Stockton would not be a good option. We only have room for 9 on our dais and very limited parking. So I'm pleased to hear that Manteca can accommodate the San Joaquin County version. Appreciate
Perfect.
it. Also,
Thanks for giving us the heads up first.
yeah, I also appreciate both of the other sites. If for some reason I want to attend with the larger group, I don't like remote attendance, you know, as a rule, and I prefer to be face to face with other members if I can. So I might take the option of just driving to Livermore. If that's the case. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Director Zuber.
I want to clarify one thing. Are we talking about all of us getting together in one place, or are we talking about those of us on the west side of the Altamont getting together in one place and those of us on the east side of the Altamont getting together in another place and we join remotely?
That was one option, Leo. You're right. And it was mentioned by Connor. And I think one idea was on 1 month, people in San Joaquin could get together in person and everyone else would be remote. And then it would come to, say, this side of the hill, we would come together and San Joaquin would come in remote. We could absolutely do that. But if we did pick a site that was large enough and you wanted to, you could drive across the hill and participate in person for all meetings. Dan, I totally agree. If you have the time in the schedule, it's best to be in person. So all of the above. Yeah.
Well,
Zuber, how we did it how we were doing it before COVID, we would alternate every other month. So we would have one in San Joaquin County and we would have one in Alameda County. But since now things have changed, obviously dramatically the last several years, and this is where we're going to turn around and give feedback and give it back to Kevin. And Kevin wants the authority to be able to give us back some more options when we have more of a concrete information on locations, what the capacity that it could hold for not just necessarily just us as the board members, but also members of the public, and then also the equipment. But I know that several other organizations, let's say, for instance, Stop Waste, you have 14 cities coming in, 14 members from different cities coming in, and they have always had the option to be able to call in as well. And then, publicly post their agenda outside the door. And most likely when that person is, or that council member or mayor or so on is calling in remotely, they usually put their posting out there, and it's usually held at their city hall. So I do want to be flexible to give, at least if there's a few people that are not being able to make it that particular day, then they can call in if needed.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just thinking if with the adjustment that you've just described, I think the Tracy City Council Chambers is set up to do this. And John says that the Livermore chamber can handle it. And I tend to agree with Councilmember Wright. I like sitting in the room with you people. I don't like this. It went back to the alternating sites, one on the east side, one on the west side, with the ability for individuals to participate remotely. That's where my preference is headed. I don't have a problem saying that.
Perfect. And that's why we're having this discussion. But I think I think we're all, headed in the right direction with alternating, one on each county. And then at least still giving the option for other directors to, if they needed to that particular day, weren't able to give them the opportunity. Director Tingle, putting the king in the T.
Yeah. Okay, I am more prone to want to go back the way we were doing it. And that is one meeting, alternate meetings, one in one in the San Joaquin area, and then the next one in Alameda County, and rotate. I do love the idea that we all meet together. So I just want to voice that. I do like joint meetings together and not having Alameda County meet in one area and then San Joaquin County meet. We're a board of working collectively together, and I think that we should meet and look at one another eyeball to eyeball.
Thank you. And then it looks like Director Badea.
Oops.
Director Bedoya, thank you. I just wanted to add.
Bedoya.
Tracy being kind of right in the center of.
We can't hear you.
We
very
cannot
well.
hear you.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Okay, perfect. Now we can hear you.
Right. With the city of Tracy being kind of in the center of, the project area, I can really confirm with our staff if there's interest to use the city hall chambers. At that time of day, it's dark, there's no one there. And on our dice, we can fit up to definitely 13 people, possibly 15. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'm in support of everything that I'm hearing where it's, alternating meetings. But I'm not completely tied to that. I'm willing to be flexible based on my colleagues. But I would like the option once in a while, as we heard from the chair also, just to have the option to call in if we need to, but of course, publicizing the meeting location. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stepper.
I just wanted to talk about what John Marchand, that he's got in a brand new facility. And I think that having really up-to-date equipment is important when you have a body this big rather than going through Martinelli. So I'd like to see having the best equipment because things are going to change. They're just going to get better, not go backwards.
Okay, yeah, and I think they're just checking on numbers of seats for not capacity of individuals coming in. It's about the dais.
Sorry, but at Martinelli, it was always hard for me to tell who was in the audience and see the people I was trying to watch and see their reactions because of the way the setup was.
I'll have to check and see how many people our dais can hold. We have 5 people on the council. We can probably double up and make it a little bit tighter and then use some of the staff seating, but I'll have to confirm that how many people we can fit up there.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Director Arkin.
Yes, thank you. So I've never had a committee meeting where we rotated different locales for the meeting. So is this the same 2 locations, just alternating between the 2 counties, or is this multiple locations throughout? Just so I understand.
That's what we're trying to be able to give Kevin the ability and direction, and then him go back, work on it, and then bring it back to the rest of the board. But yes, it would be a meeting alternating, one in San Joaquin and one in Alameda County.
Okay, but not the same one in San Joaquin every other time. That's what I'm getting at.
Consistency is always better. Not is it only better for the members of the public because they're not,
right,
going to a different direction, and it's just more consistent.
Yeah, that was going to be my recommendation
for the entire board as well too.
Yeah, that would have been my recommendation, is to be consistent with those 2 locations, because I think it's it will be confusing enough for us, but especially with the public. So, okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Sure, you're welcome. Director Akinjo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought we had this mapped out initially. One in Alameda County, one in San Joaquin. We've been using the Tracy for all the meetings for the past 2 years or 3. So I don't think there's any changes in what we had before, unless for the calling from other directors or other members of the public that are unable to attend physically. So
no, it's just making sure that we have the correct equipment, that we can get the correct equipment to be able to have the hybrid.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Hybrid. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, not seeing any other hands. I will go ahead and ask if there's any public comment.
Can we summarize just so that we can give Will good direction?
Yeah, I was just going to get public comment back, and then
okay.
It'll give Kevin the ability to kind of summarize, or Will. Any public comment?
We do not have any public comment.
Thank you. All right, Kevin or Will, it's all yours to summarize
So,
if you have.
Thank you, Chair. And I have a lot of good notes and wrote down what each city said. It's right here on my piece of paper. You can't see it. So we will look at, and this is exactly the type of information we were looking for, hoping to get staff. And everything I heard was pretty consistent. With the Martinelli Center, but now, for instance, Livermore has an updated facility, and if it can accommodate enough people, the board members on the dais, then we could set up that location. But certainly Martinelli Center has worked in the past. The one thing that had to be done a little differently there was to either rent or secure the audio visual equipment to have the meeting and to set up just to logistically how to set the facility up. It's not impossible. Done it before. I used to go to meetings there as well. And then the location in Tracy, the idea is was to have, you know, 2 locations in each county that was easy to access and most convenient for the board, because we do have a large member of our board, and our jurisdiction is approximately 42 miles in the corridor between the 2 counties. So I did hear Stockton was a no on that, just from a logistics standpoint. And there is also an option. So we'll be looking at 2 locations that rotate every meeting, but also there could be an option where we set up 2 locations so that the board members in Alameda County could, for an in-person meeting in San Joaquin County, could simply, you know, gather there. We could have a remote location for the public in that county, and Connor, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I understand it. And then vice versa, if we had a remote location in San Joaquin County for doing the meeting in person in Alameda County. And the only other thing that I would add to that is we have also discussed as staff and, you know, do we need to have, and with legal counsel, do we need to have a meeting every month if they're not actionable items? So to gather all the board members and have them travel for meetings that don't have action items, we would defer those meetings to the next month where we do have action items. So we're not just having a meeting to have a meeting. If it's for information, we can certainly disseminate information on our website or to the board members, but for action items, we'd like to have action items for the board to vote on. And there will be action items that happen. And we also would like to include, if we do skip a month, to be able to have the option to have an in-person or hybrid type meeting that complies with the Brown Act, in case there's actions we need to take for maybe funding commitments or something of that nature, where we need an action that we have to act on in that month. But usually we have a heads up and we have a pretty good idea of what's coming in the calendar. And that would be sometime to come back in April and present to the board.
Okay, thank you. Michael, did you want to add anything, or can I go ahead and go to the directors?
I just add this. I think the basic question you're looking for input on is whether we should sort of go back to the way we did it pre-COVID, where we alternated a single meeting site between Alameda County and San Joaquin County. The alternative, I think, is that we would have a meeting, we'd have a location in each county and connect that. So hopefully that might help simplify the discussion. Thanks.
You're welcome. I will go ahead and go to Director Rickman.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, I like your idea of, you know, having 2 permanent locations. I mean, we do it for example, the Valley Air District, when we have one in Modesto and one in Fresno.
Okay. Director Wright.
Yes, City of Stockton is currently renovating a new city hall, and by 2024 we should be moved in there. That room will have room to accommodate after that point in time, but currently until 2024 we will not.
Thank you for the information. And then Director Bedoya.
Thank you. I really like what I heard from Mr. Sheridan, Kevin, Michael, I said because I didn't know your last name, and Director Rickman, to have an option basically where all the directors can meet up at the same time at either a San Joaquin location and an Alameda location, and have the option for a hybrid meeting. And also what I heard about some leeway in case we have to do special meetings, so we're not just meeting every single month if it's informational items. But I really like the option of having, just because it is, you know, a 42-mile stretch, you know, some people with work commitments, but I'm good whatever way the board wants to go. But it'd be really convenient to have 2 locations that are both publicly listed, and yeah, thank you.
Director Nuno.
Thank you. Oh, just for fun, I was gonna say, I heard that for consistency, it'd be good to have a couple locations. I was gonna say, the timing, maybe Kevin knows this better, or he may even know it, for Bart to come to the Manteca Transit. I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the folks in Alameda County will eventually be able to jump on Bart and then pop up at the Manteca Transit Center, and there you are for that meeting if you want to visit, but we'll see.
We will see. All right.
And
so-
I just suggest that we will be taking Valley Link, not Bart.
I was gonna say Valley Link is probably the number
Bart's
one on
not
the
gonna
list, you
happen.
know?
Director Nuno is trying to sell something there, you know?
Yes.
I know. Okay, so it looks like you have good direction, and then we'll go ahead and take the action item to give you that authority to move forward. Kevin? All right, so then I will need
I will move approval of giving him the option to come up with the presentation of how we're going to meet in the future meeting.
Marshawn seconds.
Okay, so we have Stepper and Marshawn. Please take roll.
Akinjo,
Yes, ma'am.
Arkin,
Yes.
Bedoya,
Yes.
Hobart, Hernandez,
Aye.
Kick,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Yes.
Marshawn,
Yes.
Nuno,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Zuba,
Whoops, yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Great. So we will go to item number 8, which is the state funding and legislative update. And this is just an informational item. So I'm assuming we have Gus. There you go.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez. Good afternoon, directors, staff, members of the public. Gus Corey, legislative advocate for the authority. Pleasure to see you all. I just have a brief summary of what's going on in Sacramento and then what our game plan is for this legislative session. So starting with our legislative delegation, there are a few changes given redistricting and some of the election results that some of you may be aware of, but we went from having 7 assembly members and 4 senators. We're going to have 8 assembly members and 3 senators for the 23-24 session. Senator Wieckowski, as you know, was turned out. We pick up Senator Wahab, Assemblymember Ortega, Assemblymember Jim Cooper elected not to run for his final term, went to run for Sacramento County Sheriff instead. And then going forward, so San Joaquin will have 3 representatives for the county. Governor Newsom introduced his January 10th budget on time. Usually, sometimes it comes out a little bit earlier. The biggest news I think we're mainly aware of is that there is a deficit of $22.5 billion. The state literally plays the stock market in doing its finances. So we're heavily dependent upon capital gains. Sorry. Sorry. Okay.
Go ahead. If everybody can please mute, that would be great. Go ahead.
Thank you. Capital gains, personal income tax. So just to show you the volatility, and when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the state for fiscal year 2021 had a $53 billion deficit. For fiscal year 21-22, it went to a $76 billion surplus. For 22-23, it went to a $97.5 billion surplus. And this year now we're staring at a $22.5 billion deficit. The good news is that the state does have abundant resources in the rainy day fund of $34.5 billion. And many of the decisions the legislature made last year were one-time funding decisions. So there aren't really any ongoing obligations that are going to hamstring the state. Transportation also is fortunately no longer dependent on the general fund. We haven't been since 2009. And that's because we rely predominantly on the gas tax and on the vehicle registration fee for competitive programs that we go after. So there is one item of interest, however. So as part of last year's budget deal in Assembly Bill 180, the legislature did insert intent language, meaning that it was conditional, that for fiscal years 23-24 and 25-26, that they would provide $2 billion each for those fiscal years of augmentation to the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. The significance of that is it's supposed to augment funding for capital and operations purposes. We know that even pre-pandemic, several transit operators were struggling. This was supposed to be a shot in the arm to try to revive ridership and help compel mode shift. And so Governor Newsom is proposing to scale that back by half, by about $2 billion. But the language does contain a trigger where if revenues materialize basically by the May revision, because that's the next time that the legislature really looks at revenues that are coming in, that perspective cut would be restored. Nevertheless, we did sign a letter in conjunction with MTC and several other transit operators in the region. And there are others across the state that are asking the governor and the legislature to find a way to still make good on that conditional promise so that we can get transit out of the crisis mode that it's currently in. So with that, the governor did, when the legislature got sworn in on December 5th, the legislature did call for a special session to take a look at the gas price hikes in the fall of last year. The significance to us is that we are largely dependent again on the gas tax. It funds some of the very programs that we get to apply for passenger rail, a pass-through through either Alameda or San Joaquin County, through the State Transportation Improvement Program, through the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program. So a little bit of concern is there's a call to eliminate or suspend the gas tax. And without having a successor source, which is currently under discussion, it's going to make it more difficult for us to bring our project online. And so we're keeping a real close eye on that. Governor Newsom, earlier in the budget, I think it was last year, he actually called for some kind of a temporary suspension. So this is something to closely monitor, and we will be doing so on your behalf. Our main focus for this session is we did a lot of work last year to educate and build the profile of Valley Link. We were very influential with augmenting state funding pots to make us more competitive. The legislature, despite having a $97.5 billion surplus, did not want to do earmarks outside of just some modest members' requests. But what we did do, and really, then Chair Vargas and then Chair Hernandez, current Vice Chair Wright, Supervisor Hobart, Supervisor Rickman, everyone chipped in along with, Director Sheridan and Mr. Ritter. It was really a collective effort. We identified $1 billion of funding that was unsubscribed, and we basically doubled the size of the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. And why that's significant is Calais TA has already in the process. They just made awards last week to the traditional systems, and this new tranche of funding, which is available and applications are due this Friday, will allow us to compete for those funds. And I'm pleased to report that MTC is sponsoring our request for a $40 million request in order to help bring the hydrogen facility to do some of the preliminary work to bring that to fruition. Our request also through the Arches Initiative, through the governor, the consortium of private sector and public sector, this group, which is trying to really accelerate our ability to deliver alternative sources of fuel so that we can wean our dependence off of petroleum, has been met with some great interest, especially by the governor's office of GoBiz, the PUC, among others. We made several rounds during the fall, again, increasing our profile. And then in my rounds in the Capitol for the past couple of weeks, there's a lot of turnover, new members, new staff. we're educating folks. I've been reaching out to Senator Skinner's office, Assemblymember Wicks's office, among others, to build out of our current concentric circle, because we previously had Senator Eggman as our sole champion. And now we're very thankful that Senator Glazer is on board. Senator Wieckowski, before he was termed out, was incredibly helpful. Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, Assemblymember Villapadua, they've all submitted letters. Will can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've received at least 30 letters. And I do want to thank Vice Chair Wright for helping to get a letter from the San Joaquin Valley Policy Council. This is the 8 Valley COGs in the San Joaquin County. So you're talking about support from San Joaquin all the way down to Kern, because we've been able to make the argument that Valley Link is necessary in order to compel mode shift and help with our greenhouse gas emission mitigation, just given the poor air quality in the valley. And so we're gaining a lot of momentum. I would say it's been incredibly positive. And so we're hoping to acquire some success through the grants. And there could be even a budget opportunity. We're going to see how things play out there to help bring some of these, our project online, especially with the hydrogen facility, which will not only fuel the Valley Link system, but it will allow us to fuel commercial trucks and to fuel transit as well. So there's a cross-sectional purpose to the delivery of this project. The very last thing that I want to mention, Madam Chair, is just on the Brown Act. There will be legislation this session. There's way too many groups that are interested in the subject matter. So CalCog, League of Cities, CSAC, Self-Help Counties Coalition, all of which you guys are pretty much affiliated with through either San Joaquin or Alameda, are looking at either just extending the ability to meet under AB 361, which still necessitates a state of emergency declaration. That's not that helpful, but it's something, or modifying 2449 to allow for more flexibility in your ability to meet virtually. So I will be providing prospectively bills of interest to detail to the board, and we'll definitely look for opportunities to influence the process and make sure that there's a product that is going to be workable for you and our members of the public to participate. So with that, I'll stop right there, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments that you or directors may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gus. And please make sure to reach out to Senator Leaner. I know that he is wanting to get more information, and I know that there's 31, correct me if I'm wrong, legislators coming into Sacramento. So I know that we eventually want to make sure that we speak to all of them. And then Director Wright.
Thank you very much. What Gus did not tell us was that there's a very, very strong connection between the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council and our Valley Link Board. We spend a lot of time on the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council talking about ACE expansion to Merced and Lathrop, and connecting Lathrop all the way to Merced, and high-speed rail connecting Merced to Kern County. So this would create, you could basically get on in Antioch and take public transportation all the way to Bakersfield in rapid time. You know, this is a critical thing that we're doing here. There's a real strong synergy between the two organizations, and we're fortunate that Gus works with both of them, you know, because there's nothing garbled there. The message is very clear, and we support each other. So I appreciate the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Halbert.
Yes, I know that a lot of work is going into all of our legislative efforts, as well as search for funding. And this is a very complex space. And I know that we're hard at work on multiple fronts looking for funds. And we're all doing everything that we can to find them. One thought I had is there a way that we could have more visibility to all the different things that we're applying for? So maybe there's 20 different sources or 10 different sources, maybe more. But it would be helpful to me. I've only been at this for a couple of years, where we're actively grant writing and things like that. I mean, I know 20 years of service, the school board, the city council always sought grants, but we do a lot more of it now that I'm a supervisor. And it would be helpful for me to just know all the different buckets of money, and then to just to give ourselves a visibility to all the different things that we're, as opposed to, can I have a letter here? I need a letter there. One comprehensive list would be great and just would be helpful. So that's all I say. We're, again, doing a great job with it. Then, of course, we have to mark off the wins that we get, because we have to march towards the $2.5 billion that we need, right? So to mark off where we are, you know, you've sort of seen these bar charts, the thermometer bar charts, where you add to them until, you know, you get to the goal. Let's keep marking off where we are as we approach that number, and be always mindful of it would be helpful as well. But keep up the good work. Thank you. And don't hesitate to call if you need anything.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely. And we'll be sure to provide you with a broader spectrum of all the various grant programs that are identifiable and what we're applying for. Valley Link staff has been working super hard on trying to tee those applications up.
Thank you.
All right, not seeing any other questions. I will ask Director Bedoya.
Yes, sorry. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, and I really like the two ideas I heard from Director Halbert on, you know, tracking our overall grant applications and just making it very, very transparent, like where we're at in our total collective funding. I really like those ideas. It'd be good to see it, whether it's, you know, memos to board members or eventually maybe on the website. But I think it's a great idea. And thank you for the presentation. And thank you for your efforts.
Okay, so I will go ahead and open up to public comment. Candace?
We do not have any members of the public with a hand raised.
Okay, so this is just an informational item. We will move on to item number 9, which is Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair. And just to let the board know, because we have been the recipient now of state funds, we've been working real closely with the state with audits and investigations, what they call a pre-award audit, which is involved going through our various contracts and interviewing staff to make sure that we're set up to be able to receive state funds and federal funds. And that's been ongoing for 3 weeks, about 3 meetings per week with staff and the state. And we're making good progress, as well as local assistance in District 4 and getting that set up for the state fund to receive state funds. So that's all very positive because we do have a significant amount of local funds that have been put on the project, and those funds are in fact leveraging other funding sources. So it's not just about lobbying for funds, it's actually having funds to leverage other funds. And I would like to share this as I was driving in last week. You know, as far as the need for ValleyLink, you know, just for the board members that are just joining us, just in my prior life, I was with Caltrans. I did the 205 widening through Tracy. I did the 580 connector to 205, 580 connector. And before I went to Ace Rail and was the director of capital projects before I joined ValleyLink. And, you know, from a person who spent 20 years widening highways, I can't tell you this makes me feel like a failure over my career looking at this, because it did no good. And this is why the state is moving away. This was taken last week at 8:13 a.m. And although I think there was an accident in the eastbound direction, I didn't see it, but it just goes to show one accident leads to that congestion going eastbound in the AM as well. So it's now 170,000 vehicles per day, according to Caltrans annual average daily traffic on their website, between the 580 and 680. And this is where this traffic's going. And as I've been involved in numerous classes with FHWA and FTA studies in Atlanta, you could widen this to 15 lanes in each direction, and it still would look the same because it just moves the bottleneck to where the 680 connector is on 580. So the solution, and the reason the state is investing so much money into rail, is because widening the highway is no longer the option or the most viable alternative in relieving congestion. And I'll just leave it at that. I just wanted to show this picture to show you that this is now today.
And that picture tells so many stories, and whether it's before or after the pandemic and during COVID, I want to really emphasize that when we go and speak in Sacramento, or we go and speak in DC, that this truly is what we are when we all get together are speaking of. But I do see Director Akinjo's hand up.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Mr. Sheridan for this picture. Can we have a copy of that picture? Because this is what it is, you know?
I'm happy to share this picture, and I would like, see, I don't want to talk too long. I promised the chair only 3 minutes, but the amount of truck traffic alone is between when I started 205 and 2004, it's about 22%. But as you see in this picture, it's 3 out of the 6 lanes are starting to become all trucks. And the only way to get back capacity on these systems, if you can't widen the freeway, is to provide alternate means of transportation by train, so that commuters have a different way to get out of the way, because the freight isn't going to go away. Goods movement is only going to grow and increase. So that I would also add that truck traffic and also commuter bus. A lot of people say, why don't you run a commuter bus? It's stuck in traffic. I'm nothing against commuter buses. I love them, but commuter buses and express buses only work in certain corridors over the length of 42 miles connecting the state rail plan at Lathrop with ACE and high-speed rail, and even at Mountain House, where the collection of this traffic exists today. Those buses would just be stuck in traffic like everybody else.
Yeah, and that's why we need Director Hudson to help widen the Stockton parts. Maybe some of these goods can go through the parts to Oakland. I don't know. So tell whoever is available to link with Director Hudson to get well soon. We need him.
We do need him, and we do wish him well. This was just an informational item. Item number 10 is director's discussion. Any comments for any future items on the agenda? I do want to just share that Mayor Hudson, Mayor Marchand, and the Tri-Valley went to DC a few weeks ago, and this was our top priority, Valley Link. So we were able to lead in full direction. They were excited, and I may have talked about this already at our last meeting, but they were very excited with regards to seeing the improvements that Valley Link has done in the last, year. And so from that 1 year, from last year to this year, they were saying, wow, even the Department of Energy was saying, wow, you guys have done a lot of work in the short period of time in the last the year. And I'm not sure if Director Marchand wanted to say a few words. And
just happened to raise my hand. Yeah, thank you. Oh. And one of the things that we noticed when we were back in DC is exactly what Kevin was talking about. When we at the Department of Transportation, we talked about creating capacity to move freight by removing cars from the freeway. And I noticed everybody took notes on that one. Everybody put their pens and started writing that down. Creating capacity by removing cars and not by trying to add lanes. Adding lanes, you just increase the traffic because you move the bottleneck. So there was a lot of excitement in DC about that there's money, there's actually the possibility of getting these projects done. So that was a change of attitude. It was this idea that we can actually get things done, and that was reflected in what we've already accomplished on Valley Lake. So it's timing's right.
Thank you, John. And also, just wanted to add that the mayor of Tracy, Nancy Young, wasn't with us, but she was with us at when we went to the White House, and I know that she's very supportive as well of this project. It was great to be able to see other mayors throughout the United States meet us in DC. Not seeing anybody's hands being raised, we will go ahead and we will adjourn, and we will see you at our upcoming meeting on March 8th, 2023. Oh, Kevin?
Wait.
March
April.
is, we've canceled the March one. We're going to
Correct.
April.
Correct. Kevin, did you want to say anything else? All right.
Just the correct date. Correct date
That's
on the
correct. It was on my notes. I had March 8th, but now that we directed our executive director Sheridan to go do some research. All right.
Thank you.
We'll adjourn it.
In April.
The
In
inclusion
April,
whether
next
we
meeting.
have,
Hold on, everybody. Akinjo, go ahead.
and the inclusion from the director, whether we have action items or non-action items, will determine whether we are meeting. So apart from next month, there's that inclusion also. Am I right, Mr. Kevin?
Yes, so I hope to have some action items, but one of the action items for sure is going to be to approve the new board meeting calendar. So no matter what, we're gonna have that action item as April. But that is the goal, is to make it most convenient for the board, given the nature of the distance that everybody's traveling, and to take that into mind and come back with a calendar, proposed calendar of board meeting dates in April for the board to approve, and what the plan is. So there will be actions to approve at April, at the April board meeting.
April
So we-
12th.
Yes.
April 12th. Okay. Are we good? Are we good, Karen?
Yep, April 12th.
All right. We are officially adjourned at 3:17. We will see you in April.
All right, buddy.
Thank
Happy
you.
St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.